In this video, we're going to talk about the rate card, so let's go ahead and dive into it. On the screen here, I have a digital copy of the rate card. Now, usually when you're using the rate card, you'll probably be using a printed hard copy of it. This right here is the first page, and then starting with autos and RVs, this is the second page of the rate card. Now, the purpose of this video is to kind of break this down so that you can see how we use it. Especially the first page, you can see that it's kind of complicated. There's like probably 200 or 300 different prices on this one single page. However, if you understand the principle and the system, it's actually really easy and it works really well. So let's go ahead and dive into it. The very first thing that you need to know is where the service that you're doing, whether it's a general area, a general plus, a travel, or a travel plus. Now, being a Colorado-based company, we have certain customers that live in more remote areas and it takes a long time to drive to them. And so we have to price those at a higher price in order to be able to do the service and not get into the red, not lose money on the deal. Our answer to that is to create this rate card that has different rows. And so you can see here, this right here is the size of the structure. And then each row is either a general or a general plus or travel plus. So down at the bottom, you can see right here on the first page, it'll have the areas that are the general areas, the areas that are general plus. One quick thing, we're a growing company, and so as we grow, we're going to add more cities and more counties into this section of the rate card. So this is a changing and always upgrading section. So for example, right now when I'm doing this video, we're currently in the process of moving to the Front Range, and so we're pretty sure that Greeley, Fort Collins, and that area, and what we call the FOCO area, is going to be a general plus area. Now, if you know that you're in a general plus area, the next thing that you do is you look at the structure. Now, for most of our pricing, we base it off of the structure of the home because as a residential commercial pest control treatment, our goal is to keep the insects out of the house or the structure, the building of whatever it is. And so that's why we base this off of the size of the house. One quick thing, the size of the house is the total square footage, not just one single level or one single story. Now, you'll have some customers and they're in a 3,000 square foot house, but they'll be like, well, it's a 2-story house, so it's just a 1,500 square foot on the bottom. That's fine, but we base it off of both the top and the bottom. Now, the reason for that, and I understand the customer's perspective, they're like, well, you're just doing the foundation, so what difference does it make how tall the building is? The answer to that is we don't just do the foundation, we also do the eaves. Spiders, wasps, they get in the eaves, and the higher the house, the more difficult it is to treat the eaves. And so if you have a 3-story house, we have to have a ladder, more equipment, takes more time, more complicated, so we charge more. If it's a 2-story house, same thing. You need a bigger pole, takes a little bit longer to get up there, and usually it takes more equipment. You can't just treat it with a backpack sprayer. If it's a 2-story house, you have to have a power sprayer, generally speaking, in order to get all the way up there. So again, more equipment, more difficult, more time, more money. Now, once you've got the size of the house, then you can just simply come across and figure out what you want to charge them. So let's say you've got somebody and they're in Fort Collins and they're in a travel plus area and they're a 2,500 square foot house. Then you just look at this row, and then the only other thing that you've got to figure out is what do they want to do. If they want to do a monthly, then you're going to be looking here. If they want to do a quarterly, you're going to be looking here. Now, with monthly and quarterly, you can see that we have regular plus an add-on. The regular means if they're just doing insects, then it would be just the regular price. Or if they're just doing mice, then it would be just the regular price. Same thing for quarterly. So if somebody's in a general plus area and they have a 2,500 square foot house and they want just mice, it'd be $114. If they want just insects, it'd be $114. The add-on means if they want to do insects and mice together. So if they're doing just insect control, and you go out there and that's why they called you out, they've got, let's say, wasp and ants. And so you get them a price for that and you say it's be $114 if we do just insects. However, if you would like us to also do mice, it will only be $12 extra, so it'd be $114 plus $12 for the mice add-on. And a lot of people will take us up on that. It's a good deal for them, because if they were to do mice by themselves, it's $114. If they were to do insects by itself, it would be $114. But if they do them together, we don't charge them $228. We only charge them $126. So it's way less. Now the reason for that is because we're already there. We already did the one. We've already scheduled it, et cetera, and so we can do the other treatment while we're there anyways for a lot less. That's why we charge considerably less if they do the add-on. They combine the rodent control, which is typically mouse control, with insects together. Now, as you can see here for EOM, I don't have it expanded out so you don't see the add-on, but it's the same concept. The only reason we don't put it on here twofold. First off, we don't have enough room on the rate card. There's just not enough space. And the other thing is we don't use EOM as often. Most of our services are either monthly or a quarterly. Now, if you do want to price an EOM, this right here is the regular price. The add-on would simply just be the difference, or the middle number between this and this. And I typically err on the high side, which is only $1 more. So here I would probably do, it's 6 and 14. So the middle is 10, that's fine, or I might even go 11. So it'd be 80 plus an $11 add-on. That would throw this off so it's not an even number, so it'd be 91. And then I try to just err on the side a little bit higher so that if the customer needs a little bit more, we're not getting into the losing money realm. Obviously, if we start losing money on an account, it's bad for everybody. We have to either raise their price or drop the customer. So counterintuitively, most customers are going to be more happy if we price them a little bit higher, because the higher we price them, the better service we can do, and the better service we can do, the more happy they'll be. Whereas if we cheapskate out on the beginning, price them at a low price, we find out we're losing money. We end up doing a crummy job. The customer's obviously not going to like us. They're going to send us hate mail and whatever. So anyways, that's how that works. You can do the math, but one other thing on EOM before we leave it, we typically use the term EOM instead of bi-monthly. Bi-monthly is super common in the industry. The problem with that term is if you look in the dictionary definition right now for bi-monthly, it will say either once every 2 months or twice every 1 month. So it's a nebulous, the term itself can have a dualistic meaning, and so to dispel all ambiguity, I typically just like to say EOM, which means every other month. But with that said, bi-monthly is super common in the industry, and so you'll probably have some people use the term bi-monthly. And if they do, we know what they're talking about, once every other month. So that's how the first page works. It's pretty simple. You've got your every other week, your monthly, your every other month, quarterly, semi-annual, annual, regular. One-time service and initial services are typically the same price, listed right here. Again, you got to know the area and the size of the house. The difference between an annual and a one-time service is the annual wants us to come back every single year, which if somebody comes out and they're like, I just want it done once, what you should ask them is say, do you want it done just once every year? If so, why don't we get you on an annual and it will save you a little bit of money. Now, if they do commit to an annual, they have to commit to the initial service that we're doing right there and then the next year's service, so it's a commitment of one more. If they don't, then obviously they'd have to pay back the difference, which in this case, it would end up being $55. Again, down here on the first page, you can see the areas that are included in the general areas. And so if you're not sure, just go ahead and look down here. Again, this is a constantly portion of the rate card that's being updated. And if you are in a city or a county and it doesn't say if it's a general or a general plus, talk to the office manager, talk to the branch manager, and we'll get that added as soon as we possibly can. Now again, now that you know how this rate card works, it's pretty easy to find the rate card and the price that you want to charge. You just simply, if you know you're in a travel area, boom, you just go here, you find the price of the house, and then it's just a matter of, do you want monthly or quarterly? 2 quick suggestions. The first, for both technicians and sales reps, we never want to show the customer the rate card. So you need to already know the price before you go talk to the customer. If you're a technician, you go make contact with the customer and then you follow your QRH checklist, you leave and you do your inspection, and there's a break where you're not with the customer. At that time, you should look at the rate card and figure out what you want to price them and go back and talk to them when you don't have the rate card pulled out. Two reasons for that. First off, the rate card's complicated. We want to keep it simple. So we don't want to go in and complicate the whole thing by showing the customers our super complex rate card. I mean, they're going to look at it and be like, well, hold on, I'm a 3,500 square foot house and you charge me $78. Why isn't it $57? And then you've got to explain, well, your travel area, and because you live further away than some other customers, we have to charge you a little. Well, obviously, we don't want to do that. We don't want to get into that conversation. So just know what you're going to charge the customer and then just walk in knowing what it is. Now, one other thing with sales reps, if you're in a HOA, a housing community, and all the homes are pretty homogenized, meaning they're all pretty much the same, they're all about the same size, same floor plan, then just charge all of those customers in that neighborhood the same thing. Just figure out what the average is and then charge them all the same. The reason that we do that is because you sell customer, the first customer, and they have a little bit bigger house. Let's say they've got a 2,200 square foot house, and so you put them on this rate card. And then you go 3 doors down and you have the next customer and he's like 4 houses down. He's basically got the same house, but it's a little bit smaller. Maybe 200 feet smaller, but it ends up falling to this tier here. So it's just under 2,000, so you put them in here. And the one you charge $79 and the other one you charge $85. Well, the first guy you sold is going to be mad at you and he's going to call you up and say, hey, you sold my customer for less than me. Why? And then you have to get into this whole complicated thing like, oh, well, actually his house was a little bit smaller than yours and blah, blah. And it's KISS. Just keep it simple. Don't do that. Don't get into a situation where you have to explain how our pricing works. So just homogenize and make them all the same. Now, with that said, if you do have a neighborhood and the houses aren't completely homogenized, they're, some are way bigger. I don't know if you've ever seen Despicable Me, but you've got Despicable Me, he's a villain, and he's got this great big huge black house, it's like a castle, and all of his neighbors' houses are the same and they're all different and smaller. So if you do run into that guy, obviously charge him more. Obviously, also if you run into that guy, charge him more because he's a villain and he's a super, world evil villain, so we'd want to charge him more anyways. Obviously, kidding aside, if you do have a great big house and it's way bigger than all the rest, then you can charge him more. And you're not going to have that conversation with someone, because if somebody has a huge mansion, he knows that his house is bigger than everybody else's house. He's going to be fine with it. But if you're dealing with small, incremental changes, a few hundred feet or whatever, but the houses are basically all the same, charge them the same. Enough with that. Let's go ahead and move on. You get the idea, I'm sure. Now let's go ahead and look at the back side of this rate card. The back side of this is going to be used a little bit more for technicians, and so listen up. Although sales reps, you'll use some of it. An auto RV add-on. This is for somebody that already has regular service with us, and they want to just have us treat the RV while they're there. That's fine. It's $15 extra for whatever they're paying. So if they're paying, it's a quarterly, and they want us to do the RV, they're paying $99 quarterly, it would just be an extra $15. And then these obviously are the travel and travel plus areas, as you can see right there. Now, if somebody has a single RV and they're not doing regular service, it's not an add-on. It would just be a one-time service, and we just charge them our one-time rate. Bed bugs, liquid, and heat. Here's the deal. Unless you're trained to do bed bugs, you can't treat or you can't price bed bugs. So if you're a sales rep and somebody asks for bed bugs, that's not a service that you can quote. It's not a service that you're going to make a commission on. Just have them call the office or get their number and then give it to the office so the office can call them back would be the best. But it's just not something that it's not something you've been trained to price, and so therefore you just can't do it. Now, if you are a technician that's trained on how to price it, then you'll know what all this means. It's a little outside the scope of this video because those are both advanced treatments. Let's go ahead and look at a broadcast service. So for things like elm seed bugs, where we want to do an entire treatment, so besides just the foundation and the eaves, let's say they're getting these bugs all across their house, like all up the stucco, and they want us to treat, or whether they want us to or not, if we need to treat the entire area, then that should be a broadcast treatment. And right here the price is $25 extra if it's a monthly, or $50 extra if it's a quarterly. And if it's an EOM, then you can split the difference and do it for about $33 extra. So that's for, we charge more obviously because there's a lot more product, more time, more difficult, and therefore we charge more. Now the IGR is the same thing. So if we're adding an IGR, which is a growth inhibitor, and this is typically something that we use if we're doing cockroaches, especially bad infestation of cockroaches, or if we're doing elm seed bugs or box elder bugs, then we would use whatever the regular insecticide that we're using, and we'd lace it with an IGR, which will make it way more effective. So not only do we kill them, we also make them so they can't reproduce. IGR is basically like a birth control for insects. Typically it either makes the males sterile, or it makes it so they can't molt and grow. That's essentially what it does. It would be $25 extra if it's monthly, or $50 extra if it's quarterly. So if you've got a customer and they're doing elm seed bugs, for example, and you quote them, you tell them that we're going to do both a broadcast treatment and an IGR. If that's the service that you sell, whether you're a sales rep or a technician, you had better have that priced correctly, which means you have to have, let's assume it's a monthly service that you sold, which typically if we're doing an IGR added, it's probably going to be a monthly. Same thing for a broadcast. Because if they need an IGR, then probably quarterly is not going to be good enough for them. So that means that you should have had it added an extra $25 above and beyond the price that you would have normally charged, which is covered here in the rate card. So let's say they're a 2,000, 3,000 square foot house and they're in a general plus area, then that's going to be $63 plus an additional $25 for the broadcast service per treatment, plus another $25 for the IGR added service. So it's going to be an extra $50. It's obviously more expensive, but we're doing a lot more. We're adding an IGR, we're doing way more treatment, and also they're paying more, but it's going to be a lot more effective. So that's the upside to the customer. Cleaning service, you got the prices here. This is general plus, travel plus. Now with cleaning, this is typically if there's a bunch of rat or mice feces that's just all over the place. This is what we charge per hour. Here's the deal. Cleaning services are nasty. It's not glamorous work at all. The customer is not going to want to do it. That's why they're having us do it. And we offer those services, but we charge quite a bit. So we charge $239 per hour for a general area, $269 for a general plus, and so on and so forth. Also, this is billed in full hour increments. And so if a treatment ends up taking an hour and 10 minutes, we're going to bill them for 2 hours. If it takes 2 hours and 15 minutes, we're going to bill them for 3 full hours. So we don't prorate it. Again, it's kind of expensive. Customers, if they want that done, they're going to be happy to pay it because they can either pay us, a couple hours to go out and clean it, $500, or they can clean the rat feces themselves, which obviously they're not going to want to do. Nobody wants to do it. We don't want to do it. For the technicians, it's not glamorous. Now, here's the deal. For technicians, if you end up doing a cleaning service, you can talk to the branch manager and we'll get you a bonus. I get it. This is not glamorous work at all. And so I think that the company should make more, and I think that you as a technician should get a pretty big fat bonus for doing that work because, again, it's not glamorous. It's nasty. It's not pleasant work at all. I get it. As a sales rep, typically you don't sell cleaning services, but if you do, this is not something that we're okay with you pricing under the rate card. You price it correctly or we won't do it. It's as simple as that. It's not glamorous work. We don't really like doing it. And not only is it stuff we don't really like to do, it's not really pest control. I mean we go out and we treat for bugs. We're not really a cleaning service. It's kind of pest control because cleaning up pest control is kind of within the core focus of what we offer, but it's just it's kind of on the periphery of our core focus. With that said, let's go ahead and move on. The inspections and emergency services. This is a little chart. So general plus, travel plus, pretty straightforward. Up to 1 hour is $125. So if somebody wants us to do an inspection, this is typically for vertebrates and for bed bugs and for termites. So if somebody's just got general pest control, we usually do that inspection for free as just part of the pricing and the selling process. But again, for termites, for bed bugs, and for vertebrates, we charge for those inspections $125 up to 1 hour. So it's not prorated. If we go out and the inspection ends up taking 30 minutes, it's still $125. And that's also billed in 1 hour increments. And so if it ends up being more than an hour, let's say it ends up being an hour and 25 minutes, we'll end up billing them for 2 hours. Now here's the deal. As a technician, if you go out and it ends up taking you an hour, 10 minutes, you probably ought to just, or an hour, 5 minutes. It's an hour, but it's just barely over. In most cases, I as a technician would just call it an hour. But if it ends up being, a third of an hour, so 25 minutes, then I just bump it up to the extra hour. The other thing about this is this price right here. If we do that inspection and they do the subsequent treatment, so let's say it's a bed bug treatment and we charge them $125 for the inspection, but then they decide to use the bed bug service, we'll give them a credit of whatever they paid in the inspection towards the treatment. And so if they do the service, then it essentially is a free inspection. An emergency charge, every once in a while we'll get somebody that calls and they're like, hey, I need an inspection. It's bed bugs. I'm a hotel owner. I need it right now. Like I need it today in the next 3 hours. If that's the case, assuming that we can do it, that we have a technician that is available and we can rearrange on their schedule, then we charge the 1 hour treatment charge plus the emergency fee. So this would end up being $175, and the GJ Plus would be $175 or $225. Also, the emergency charge, we typically, or not typically, we do not credit that to the treatment. We'll credit the actual inspection charge itself, but not the emergency fee, not the quick turnaround fee. So that's just a price that they pay. Again, here's general plus, travel plus. It's pretty straightforward. Termites, this is if it's an official form, like it's typically for a real estate transaction, and the inspection is the service in a lot of cases, and there's paperwork that we have to fill out. In Colorado, that form is called the NPMA 33 form. In different states, they have different forms that they use, but they're forms that the mortgage company has to have in the loan in order for them to process the loan. So that's what we charge here, and we're totally compliant and totally qualified, and we have all the correct licensing in order to sign off on those forms. Again, you've got the travel rates. I'll say one other thing. These prices that you're looking at right here, they may change over time, just because our rate card is obviously it is updated and is subject to change. But the main thing that I'm doing in this video is just explaining how everything works. After our EM service, that means after our emergency services. So we have a number that people, if they call and they get the voicemail, they can call the emergency line, and they can request us to come out during off hours. Now this is typically like in the middle of the night, like 2 a.m. or on a Sunday, or after hours on a Saturday when we're not working. And what we typically tell customers is, we'll come out right now if you want. We have an emergency charge, it's a lot more, or you can wait to our next business day. What would you like to do? If they do end up wanting us to come out right now, then we'll do it. We'll just charge this rate. So it's really expensive, as you can see. Like even somebody in a general plus area is $455, and it's only this only is 1 hour, up to 1 hour of service, by the way. And so if let's say somebody has a mouse in their house and they're freaking out, they've got this phobia towards mice or whatever, and they call our emergency line and it's 2 a.m. and they're like, can you please come out right now? And they're fine with paying almost $500 for us to come out. Well, that's fine. We'll come out and we'll do it. We'll do the do a service for up to 1 hour to try to get rid of it, and and we'll charge the customer $500. Half of whatever we charge them here goes to the technician. And you can look in the manual under the policies. There's a section called emergency calls, and it talks about this right here. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just pull it up really quick so you can see it. Emergency calls. It says if a customer calls our emergency line and requests an after-hours emergency service, such as in the middle of the night or on a Sunday, Penguin should charge them the rate card emergency rate, which is what we just saw. The technician will be paid half of what we charge to the customer. The technician should let the office manager know, basically just remind the office manager so that we can get that added to your next paycheck. This doesn't happen very often, and so as a technician, just be Johnny on the spot and follow up so that you get paid. And you should get paid, because obviously going out at 2 a.m., not exactly pleasant. Or on a Sunday or whatever. Mosquitoes, this is pretty straightforward. So if they want a monthly or an every other week treatment, it's the same price. If they do every other week, it's a lot more effective, but it'll be the same price per service. So right here, this is our rate. So if they're in a general plus area, it'd be $55 per service. And that's for up to 5 acres. Now with mosquitoes, we don't charge based on the structure of the house, because it doesn't have anything to do with the structure. It has to do with the lot that we're treating. So we charge $55 per treatment for either monthly or an every other week. By the way, if they're doing this, they have to do either a monthly or an every other week. If somebody wants mosquitoes done, they can't have it done once a quarter. The main reason it's just not effective. If they want mosquitoes gone, they've got to do it at least once a month. And then you add $10 for whatever this is. You add another $10 per every quarter of an acre. So if they've got a 1 acre lot and they're in a travel plus area, then it would be an extra $20 on top of the 62, so it'd be $82. Again, these numbers are subject to change, and they may over time. So refer to the current copy of the rate card right now to figure out exactly what it is. Also with mosquitoes, they have to do a 1 year commitment, 1 season commitment. And so typically we start doing mosquitoes in about March, and then we go to about the end of the year till about October. And so whatever that season is, they've got to commit to do an entire season. If they start in the middle of the season, then they have to finish out this season and commit to do the first of the following season. So it's essentially 1 year. As an add-on, this is if somebody wants us to treat mosquitoes and they are already on a regular service. So let's say they're on a quarterly service. We would go ahead and do that as an add-on. I don't think that it'd be super as effective, but if they're not having a lot of problems with mosquitoes, then this may help. Or if they're on a monthly, but this is just the add-on. So it's 30, 35, 45, or 60, depending on whether it's travel or general plus. Also, one other thing, anywhere in the manual where it says GJ, that just means general. General plus, travel, or travel plus. This is only offered in certain areas, and so you'll need to check with the branch manager and make sure that whatever area you're selling in Grand Junction and most of our travel plus areas, we do offer this. One-time events, this is typically if somebody has a wedding that they're doing or a barbecue or something like that. They might want us to just come out and just do a one-time fogger where we come out and fog mosquitoes, which that's essentially how mosquitoes are done. We can treat with a backpack sprayer, but usually what we do is we have this backpack fog equipment that we use, and it just puts out this fog, this mist, and it goes up in the trees, kills all the mosquitoes, and then it dissipates, and it doesn't cause any damage to non-target pests. So it works really well. You have to do it kind of frequently for it to be effective, but it does work pretty well. So let's say somebody's, back to our one-time events, let's say somebody's got a wedding, and they've got 1 acre set up where they're going to be doing a treatment. We charge $197 for a half an acre plus another $50 per every quarter of an acre. And so if it's 1 acre, it would end up being $297 for a one-time. $300. It's a super good deal if somebody's having a wedding and they don't want any mosquitoes there. Again, all these numbers are subject to change, and so review the current rate card as these might have went up or down a little bit. But non-standard pricing, which also I will say one thing, I just noticed right now the mosquitoes, we've only got one price. This is going to be updated to show general, general plus, travel, travel plus, etc. So that will be updated. I'm just showing you how basically how the rate card works and giving you some ideas. We can plug in the numbers down the road. Non-standard pricing, hourly rate. Typically, sales reps don't use this very often. In the manual, it talks about how we've got a rate which is based on a recommended service time. But another way that we could rate price customers is we could just estimate how much time it's going to take, and we usually do this for miscellaneous or non-common treatments that we do that doesn't fit in our box of quarterly or whatever. In those cases, we can just refer to the hourly rate, which is $125 if it's a general, $150 if it's general plus, $175 if it's travel, and $225 per hour if it's travel plus. One-time talking points. If somebody just wants a one-time service, for the customer's benefit, we should try to have the customer, or persuade the customer to do it at least on an annual basis. And again, it's for the customer's benefit because it will save them money. If they want it done once per year anyways, just put them on an annual, save them 30 or 40 bucks each treatment. The downside to a one-time service, and this is also the downside to an annual service also. I mean, it's better to do at least semi-annual or quarterly. But we use environmentally safe products, and so they break down UV rays and microbial bacteria and things like that eats the products, and so they work for about 3 months. That's just typically the lifespan of the products that we use. And so if they're just doing it once a year, making those products last for 12 months, it just doesn't work very well. Products are manufactured to not kill eggs. Most of the products that we use will kill live insects, but not the eggs themselves. And so if we treat it, those eggs hatch 3 or 4 months later, that's our treatment's not going to do very much for it. Plus, if you don't do it very often, you can build up resilience, what's called resistance in the pest population. It's higher priced for the customer, so it's not. Typically, customers get the most bang for their buck with a quarterly service, at least a semi-annual. Ideally, quarterly, it has a warranty that comes with it. Enough of that. Let's go ahead and carry on. Vertebrates, raccoons, skunks, etc. So there's 2 ways we can do this. We can price these with a consultation service, or we can do a trap monitoring service. A consultation service is where we go out, we rent them the trap. Actually, it's not a rent, it's a deposit. So the trap is free, but we just charge a $150 deposit. And when we get the trap back, we'll return their money. Just a deposit. And then we just charge them a consultation service. Again, here's your rate for general, general plus, travel, travel plus. The trap monitoring service is where we actually go out and check the trap. And we'll do it every day for up to 2 weeks. We charge $180 if it's general, $198 if it's general plus, etc., etc. Now, that's not offered in some areas. The reason that we have these 2 tiers is because we're dealing with a lot of regulations from a lot of different entities and government organizations, depending on what we do. What I mean by that is this. The Department of Parks and Wildlife, CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, they require that anytime you do a trapping service, whoever set that trap has to check it every single day. If you don't, it's a pretty big penalty. And so if we're the ones that are actually doing the service, they have to sign up for a daily service. We have to do it every day, which obviously to the customer becomes kind of expensive for us to go out every single day and check that trap. Especially when most of the time we're just like, oh, there's nothing there. And obviously we have to bill the customer for that. So it becomes pretty expensive. The other thing is that if we give them the trap and it's their responsibility to check the trap, we can tell them, hey, CPW requires that you check this every day, which if it's right at their house and they have to check it every day, but we can't rent them the trap because then we're getting into taxes where we're a service-based company and we can't, if we start charging for rentals or for equipment or for products, it just opens a whole can of worms as far as what we need to charge in order to be compliant with tax policies. So it's a lot of stuff going on. So what we do is the consultation service works like this. We give them the trap for free. We don't charge them for the trap. We charge them a deposit, but we give that back when we get the trap back. So it's just a deposit. So we give them the trap for free, and then we charge them a consultation service where we basically just explain to them, this is how you set up the trap, or we might even set up the trap for them. but it's their trap, and then they're responsible to check it once every day, and they have to be compliant with CPW. And that's how we navigate and are compliant with both of, all the different bureaucratic red tape. So a consultation service is, again, here's the prices. If they decide that they want us to check the trap, we do that in certain circumstances. In some of the travel areas, we just don't offer it, just because if we have to travel, more than 15 minutes to go look at that trap every day, it's just not worth the time. Assuming that you're in a general area, we can usually bring it to them at these prices. So we'll check it every single day for up to 2 weeks, and then when we catch whatever we're doing, then we also charge them a removal fee, which is down here below. So removal of a dead animal, here's your pricing. If it's a live animal, it's a little bit more. The skunk, if it's dead, it's this much. If the skunk is alive, it's this much. So we charge a little bit more for a skunk for obvious reasons. I don't think I need to go into it. Obviously, skunks are harder to remove because they're skunks and they stink and they spray us, and it's a big fat hassle. If it's an emergency after hours add-on, then you charge them whatever is here plus this, and it doesn't matter if it's like a raccoon or a skunk. So let's say they're a travel plus, they're going to be this, and if they're like, I've got to have it done right now, then we charge them this plus this. And so if it's a live skunk and they want it done right now, I know it's Sunday, but I want you guys to come out and do it right now, then it's going to be $497, $500 plus $125, so $625 essentially for us to go out on Sunday, get that check, skunk, and remove it. So that's how that works. That should give you a pretty good idea on the rate card. It's pretty easy once you understand how everything works, but I understand it is complicated at first glance, and so if you need to watch this video again, do it. And that is all I've got.